Tim Priester with Pete Sampson and Tim O'Malley following Notre Dame's first practice here at CULVER Academies, nearly 3 hours on a very warm day here in CULVER. There was supposed to be rain, but that blew out of here, and a real challenging first day for the Fighting Irish. Quentin Nelson suffered some cramps, I guess, at one point, but otherwise Notre Dame came out of this pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Troy Pride did pop his hamstring. We're not sure of the severity of that, but that was a clear injury. And then it looked like Jalen Elliott maybe had some kind of cramp knee thing at the end. But other than that, besides Kurt Heinisch throwing up, they were okay. There's one every year. It's usually a freshman, so Heinisch is this year's award winner. I watched the offense. I thought Brandon Wimbush was good. I thought he showed some good touch on some shorter stuff. Cameron Smith surprised me. I know on the podcast I said that it would be a good thing if we weren't talking about him, but he's running with the starting offense. So that says way more about the offense than the defense. You know, we didn't really see him maybe just bust down the seam and take it deep. But if he's really going to run with the ones, with Claypool and also Equanimeous St. Brown, that's an interesting dynamic for that offense because we weren't really sure where those grad transfers were going to fit in. Cam Smith, I think he was sort of playing the W, and then Freddie Canteen was the second-team slot.
Right, so Freddie Canteen, one of two wide receivers, true wideouts in the slot, Chase Claypool being the other one. And we were surprised to see Cameron Smith running with the number one unit. Brian Kelly explained afterwards he had a great, extensive knowledge of the offense up to this point, so he's running with the ones. Tim, you were checking out on the defense. I think we were more impressed with the young guys on the offensive side of the football. What'd you see on defense?
Yeah, defensively the only change from the spring, Nick Coleman did not rep with any of the first three units, so we figured there's a mild injury, and Brian Kelly confirmed that. He's got a bit of an ankle injury. Kelly seemed to indicate that he is still easily the front runner for one of those jobs because he offered the other spot is what they're working on today. It was Jalen Elliott and Devin Studd still starting. I don't think that's that big of a surprise. Alohi Gilman was the transfer from Navy, was second unit. It's hard to glean anything from these situations at safety because there's no contact, no pads. You can at corner, and the most impressive guy again, which we say every August, was Sean Crawford, who breaks on the football better than anybody on the team. Good news because Brian Kelly singled out Dante Vaughn as one of the more impressive guys. So if you can have Dante Vaughn, Nick Watkins, and Sean Crawford, that will allow, and I don't want to ruin our previews here, but that will allow Julian Love to potentially move to safety, and you asked Brian Kelly about that today.
I did. I asked Brian Kelly about what it would take to move Julian Love to safety. Of course, it's the first day, and they're not about to do anything like that. But he said it was Dante Vaughn. If Dante Vaughn, who's bigger and stronger, he felt like physically he can redirect people a little bit better. That gives them the opportunity. The main thing is, Crawford is your nickel back. Can you afford to move him out of that spot? Well, you can do some things. You can mix some things up. You can put Love at safety. You can get Crawford at the nickel back position when they go to nickel, especially if Dante Vaughn is there. Pete, what else offensively? I mean, some of the guys that I was impressed with, I thought the two young receivers, Michael Young and Jafar Armstrong. Jafar Armstrong, I expected to be a big, bulky kid, and he wasn't that. I thought those guys played with a lot of confidence. And that right tackle spot today, it was Tommy Kramer. I was really impressed with Robert Hainsey.
Yeah, he looked very good to me. I thought Aaron Banks looked like he was in pretty good physical shape. Josh Lugg is impressive looking at him physically. Jafar Armstrong did most of his damage against other third-team type guys, but he was a lot better than what I was expecting. And Michael Young looks very quick. I thought just if you're giving me a grade on like who looks the most natural coming out of breaks and drills, it would be Michael Young, but Jafar Armstrong was really productive when given opportunity against other third-line type guys. Tight end position, I have a hard time seeing any way that Alize Mack, Brock Wright, and maybe Cole Kmet don't challenge Nick Wisher for that second job. I think Nick Wisher is going to have a hard time holding off some of that younger talent because you look at those five guys, you could not tell me who was the senior, who was the freshman, and tie goes to the younger guys. And I think that instance, because there's so much upside with Kmet and Wright.
It was a tough day for Wisher.
Yeah, it was. I just don't think he has the natural athleticism that the other guys do, and that's not to say that he's not a good tight end or not a good athlete, but the other guys I think are plus in that department. Alize Mack, head and shoulders to me the most athletic tight end. I think you just see the way he comes out of breaks, the way he catches the ball falling out of bounds. He's got an it factor that the other guys don't have, and again, not a slight on the other guys because I think Durham Smythe's in for a good year, and Komet and Wright are in for great careers, but Mack has a lot of extra juice.
And as I mentioned, the slot guys that are actual wideouts, Chase Claypool is one of those. So he gives you some tight end qualities. Tim, last thing on the defensive side.
Well, I think it's good news. We watched very closely Jerry Tillery the entire time because I wanted to see his effort, and he made plays, he pushed the pocket, and most important, he was all out all the time, which is what they need from Jerry Tillery. I wouldn't say it was a great practice, but it was very good practice from Jerry Tillery. He would have stood out had I not been looking for him as the key guy. So that's great news for Notre Dame fans. I thought the second unit defensive line held its own. They got tired during some of those drills later on, but that's to be expected as well. And then Pete's been talking about it because he talked to some guys inside the Goog. Drew Tranquil looks natural at the Rover. He did have a pick six. It was not against Brandon Wimbush, but he did have a pick six. And in 11 on 11 now, there's no pads. But he's just a natural at that position, and he impressed as well today.
I think he's going to have a great season. He jumped a route. I think it was Ian Book that made that throw and jump the route. That's it today from the CULVER Academies with Pete Sampson. Tim O'Malley will be back here on Saturday.